My name is Evelyn, and I breathe food. Not literally, of course, but it's in me. I'm a chef at a little Italian place downtown, Bellinate, and it's my sanctuary. 5 years married to Daniel, a good man, a decent man. But there's always a but, isn't there? His mother, Beatrice. Beatrice isn't just a mother-in-law, she's a force of nature. A hurricane disguised as a social worker. She specializes in child protective services, which probably explains why she sees the worst in everyone, especially me. From day one, it was clear. I was not good enough for her Danny boy. My carbonara wasn't creamy enough. My hair was too long, then too short. My laugh was too loud, then too quiet. I felt like I was walking on eggshells every single time she was around. What made it worse? Daniel. My sweet, oblivious Daniel. He just froze. He'd sit there while his mother dissected me, a polite smile plastered on his face, and say nothing. Absolutely nothing. One night, after a particularly brutal Sunday dinner, Beatrice had critiqued my meatloaf recipe. My meatloaf. For a solid 30 minutes, I snapped. We were in the living room, the TV blaring some mindless sitcom, but I couldn't take it anymore. Daniel, the first started, trying to keep the tremor out of my voice. Don't you think your mother is harsh? Sometimes? His face went tight. Evelyn, you don't understand. Mom's always been like this. She raised me and my brother, Liam, alone after Dad left. She had to be tough. Tough? This is beyond tough, Daniel. This is cruel. He looked away. She used to tell us that if we misbehaved, she'd give us away to another family. Can you imagine that? It scared the living daylights out of us. It worked. We learned to be good. My jaw dropped. Daniel, that's terrible. You know that's not normal, right? He just shrugged. It's how things were. Mom did her best. That's when I knew. Really knew. This wasn't something I could fix. Daniel was too deeply ingrained, too molded by years of Beatrice's control. This wasn't a husband, this was a hostage. And I was collateral damage. As if Beatrice wasn't enough, there was always the constant comparison to Clara, my sister-in-law. Clara was married to Liam, Daniel's older brother. In Beatrice's eyes, Clara could do no wrong. She was the perfect daughter-in-law. Smart, successful, beautiful, poised. Everything I apparently wasn't. Evelyn, Beatrice would coo, her voice laced with saccharine sweetness, during those dreaded family dinners. Did you hear about Clara's latest promotion? Senior VP at her company. Isn't that wonderful? I'd force a smile, my teeth grinding together. That's great, Clara. Congratulations. Clara would beam, basking in the praise. Thank you, Evelyn. It's really nothing, but she knew exactly what she was doing. And then there was the baby question. Oh, the baby question. Beatrice was obsessed with grandchildren, and she made it her personal mission to remind me of my failure at every opportunity. So, Evelyn, she'd start, her eyes narrowing, when are you and Daniel planning on starting a family? You're not getting any younger, you know. I'd take a deep breath, trying to keep the volcano inside me from erupting. We're focused on our careers right now, Beatrice. Children will come when we're ready. Beatrice would scoff. Career? Cooking isn't a career, dear. It's a hobby. A real woman knows her place is in the home, raising children. My blood would boil. I'd bite my tongue, knowing arguing was pointless. Daniel, of course, would remain silent, pushing his mashed potatoes around his plate. The infuriating part was that Beatrice never bothered Clara about children. It took me months to figure out why. Then, one day, Daniel let it slip. Liam was infertile, a closely guarded family secret. Beatrice would rather die than admit her perfect Liam had a flaw. She'd rather have no grandchildren than admit any kind of imperfection in the eyes of the world. Over time, Beatrice tightened her grip on her sons, demanding their help with everything. And, of course, that expectation extended to the daughters-in-law. Clara and Liam lived nearby, so it was easier for them to cater to Beatrice's whims. Daniel and I lived further away and both worked long hours. We couldn't visit as often as Beatrice wanted, and she made damn sure we knew how unhappy she was about it. "I might as well be dead for all you two care," she'd wail dramatically over the phone. My own son and his wife, too busy to visit their poor widowed mother. I'd roll my eyes, mouthing the words along with her. I'd heard this speech so many times I could recite it in my sleep. "We're sorry, Beatrice," I'd say, not feeling sorry at all. "We'll try to visit more often." It was never enough. In Beatrice's world, we should be at her beck and call 24/7. And, of course, it was all my fault. I was the one bossing Daniel around, keeping him from his familial duties. As the months crawled by, I dove headfirst into my work. AmITheA became my refuge, the only place where I felt valued and respected. Chef Marco, my mentor, kept pushing me. "You have fire, Evelyn," he'd say, tasting my latest creation. "Don't let anyone extinguish it." In the kitchen, I wasn't the disappointing daughter-in-law or the wife who couldn't give her husband children. I was just Evelyn, the passionate chef with a bright future. The day everything started to fall apart began like any other. I was at AmITheA, prepping for the dinner rush, when my phone buzzed. "Beatrice," I groaned inwardly, but answered anyway. "Hello, Beatrice. What can I do for you?" Her voice was sharp, demanding. "Evelyn, I need you to come to the mall and pick me up. Clara and I have been shopping, and we have too many bags for a taxi." I glanced at the clock. Peak traffic time, and the mall was on the other side of town. "Beatrice, I'm at work. I can't just leave." "Oh, so your job is more important than family?" she interrupted, her voice dripping with accusation. "I see how it is. I suppose I'll just have to struggle with all these bags myself, at my age. I could throw my back out, but don't you worry about that." I closed my eyes, counting to 10 in my head. "Fine, Beatrice. I'll be there as soon as I can." The traffic was a nightmare. I sat in gridlock for over an hour, my frustration building with each passing minute. By the time I finally reached the mall, I was a coiled spring of stress and irritation. I circled the parking lot looking for Beatrice and Clara. Nowhere to be seen. I called Beatrice's phone. No answer. I tried Clara. Nothing. Finally, after my third attempt, Beatrice picked up. "Where are you?" I asked, trying to keep the annoyance out of my voice. "Oh, Evelyn," Beatrice said, her tone dripping with false sweetness. "We got tired of waiting, so we took a taxi home. I thought Clara texted you." Before I could protest, she hung up. I sat there, staring at my phone in disbelief. Then I screamed. I screamed until my throat was raw, letting out all the pent-up frustration and anger I'd been bottling up for years. When I got home, Daniel was already there. I stormed in, still simmering. "Your mother," I started, but Daniel cut me off. I know. Mom told me what happened. Why didn't you get there faster? She had to take a taxi because of you." I stared at him, my mouth agape. "Are you kidding me right now? I left work early, sat in traffic for hours, and it's my fault?" Daniel shrugged. "You know how Mom is about waiting. You should have planned better." The next few weeks were a blur of work and tense silences at home. Daniel and I were barely speaking, the chasm between us growing wider every day. Then, one evening, as I was closing up the kitchen, my phone rang. Beatrice, again. I considered ignoring it, but I knew that would only lead to more drama. With a heavy sigh, I answered. "Hello, Beatrice." "Evelyn, dear," she said, her voice sickly sweet. "I need you to do me a favor. It's Clara's birthday tomorrow, and I'm throwing her a little party at my house. I need you to deliver food from your restaurant. The most expensive dishes, mind you. For 10 people." I felt my blood pressure spike. "Beatrice, that's going to be extremely expensive. I can't just—" "Oh, don't be so stingy," she interrupted. "It's for family. And, of course, you'll be paying for it. Consider it your gift to Clara." I nearly dropped the phone. "You want me to pay for a gourmet meal for 10 people? Beatrice, that's insane. I can't afford that." she said disapprovingly. Well, if you're going to be difficult about it, I suppose you could always cook the meal yourself and bring it over. That's what a real chef would do, isn't it? I closed my eyes, counting to 10 again. Beatrice, I work full-time. I don't have the energy to cook a gourmet meal for 10 people after a full shift. I see, she said, her voice cold. Well, I'll let Daniel know how little you care about his family. Goodbye, Evelyn. The line went dead. I stood there, phone in hand, feeling a mixture of rage and despair. When I got home, Daniel was waiting for me, his face like a thundercloud. Mom called, he said without preamble. Why are you being so difficult about Clara's birthday? Mom's right, you don't care about anyone but yourself. In the end, I caved. I couldn't face another argument, another night of cold silence. The next day, I placed the order at the restaurant, wincing as I handed over my credit card. It was a huge chunk of my savings, but what choice did I have? The following evening, Daniel and I arrived at Beatrice's house for the party. I was exhausted from a long day at work, but I plastered on a smile as we entered. Beatrice greeted us at the door, all smiles for Daniel and barely a glance for me. Oh, you're here. Come in, come in. Everyone's already started eating. We walked into the dining room, and I stopped short. The table was laden with food, but it wasn't the dishes I had ordered from the restaurant. Instead, there was an array of homemade dishes that looked, well, less than appetizing. What's going on? I asked, confused. Where's the food from the restaurant? Clara looked up from her plate, smirking. Oh, didn't Mom tell you? I decided I wanted to cook for my own birthday. Isn't that right, Mom? Beatrice nodded, beaming at Clara. Yes, and everything is just delicious. Clara's such a talented cook. I stood there, speechless. Daniel nudged me. Come on, let's sit down. Don't make a scene. Numbly, I took my seat. Daniel chatted and laughed with everyone, seemingly oblivious to my discomfort. I caught Beatrice watching me several times, a satisfied smirk on her face. By the time we left, I was emotionally drained. In the car, on the way home, I turned to Daniel. Did you know about this? That Clara was going to cook? He shrugged. Mom might have mentioned it. What's the big deal? I stared at him in disbelief. The big deal is that I spent a fortune on food that's now going to waste. Daniel, your mother knew that when she asked me to order it. You're overreacting, he said, not taking his eyes off the road. It was just a misunderstanding, but I knew better. This was no misunderstanding. It was a calculated move by Beatrice, another in her endless series of power plays. And, once again, I was the loser. A couple of months passed, and the tension in our household had become almost unbearable. Daniel and I were barely speaking, and when we did, it usually ended in an argument. I was spending more and more time at Bella Knott, throwing myself into my work with a kind of desperate energy. One evening, as I was cleaning up after a long shift, Daniel approached me with an unusually excited expression on his face. Evelyn, he said, his eyes bright, I need your help with something important. I raised an eyebrow, curious despite myself. What is it? It's Mom's birthday next month, he explained, and I want to do something really special for her. Something that'll blow Liam's gift out of the water. Got any ideas? I was about to shake my head when suddenly a thought struck me. I remembered overhearing Chef Marco talking about an upcoming event at Bella Knott. Actually, I said slowly, I might have an idea. On your mom's birthday, there's going to be a special event at the restaurant. They're filming an episode of that cooking show your mom loves. You know, the one with that Chef Simone she's always going on about. Daniel's eyes widened. No way! Are you serious? I nodded, feeling a small spark of excitement despite myself. Yeah, we could book a table for that night. If we're lucky, we might even get to be part of the filming. Daniel's face lit up like a Christmas tree. Evelyn, that's perfect. Mom would absolutely love that. She's always wanted to meet Chef Simone. For a moment, I felt a warm glow of satisfaction. It was nice to see Daniel so happy, and, for once, to be the source of that happiness. We should keep it a surprise, I suggested, getting caught up in the moment. Can you imagine her face when she realizes where she is and what's happening? Daniel nodded enthusiastically. Absolutely. We'll keep it completely under wraps. She won't suspect a thing. We spent the next hour planning out the details. I would book the table and arrange everything at the restaurant. Daniel would handle getting Beatrice there without spoiling the surprise. The next day, I spoke to Chef Marco about booking the table and explained the situation. He was more than happy to help, even offering to put us at one of the best tables in the house. The day of Beatrice's birthday arrived, and I woke up feeling a mixture of excitement and trepidation. As I was getting ready, Daniel approached me with an odd expression on his face. "Hey, I think I'll go pick up Mom myself," he said, not quite meeting my eyes. "Why don't you head to the restaurant on your own? I'll meet you there with Mom." I frowned a little, taken aback. "Oh, okay. What time should I arrive?" "Just stick to the reservation time," Daniel said quickly. "I'll handle everything else." I noticed Daniel left much earlier than necessary, but I brushed it off. Maybe he had some last-minute preparations to take care of. When I arrived at Bella Not at the appointed time, my heart sank. Through the window, I could see that the dining room was already full. Our family, along with several of Beatrice's friends, were seated at a large table, laughing and talking animatedly. They looked like they'd been there for quite some time. I entered, my steps faltering as I approached the table. My usual place, next to Daniel, was occupied by one of Beatrice's friends. I stood there, feeling like a ghost at my own party. "Hello, everyone," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. They barely glanced at me, continuing their conversations as if I weren't there. The only one who acknowledged me was Beatrice, who gave me a smug smile before turning back to her guests. I turned to Daniel, confusion and hurt swirling inside me. "What's going on?" "I thought we were surprising your mother together." Daniel finally looked at me, his expression a mixture of guilt and defiance. "Evelyn, we got tired of all the drama. Mom's birthday should be a happy occasion without any arguments or tension. We thought it would be better this way." I felt like I'd been slapped. "Better? You mean better without me?" Before Daniel could respond, Beatrice chimed in, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Oh, Evelyn dear, didn't Daniel tell you? We decided to have a little family gathering. Just the people who really matter." I felt my face burning with humiliation. That's when I noticed the camera crew in the corner, filming everything. Beatrice, oblivious to their presence, continued her tirade. "You know, it's probably for the best that you haven't given Daniel any children," she said loudly. "A barren, useless woman like you shouldn't be a mother. If you ever do manage to have a child, I'll make sure it's taken away and given to Clara. She'd be a much better mother." Clara giggled as Beatrice patted her hand approvingly. Beatrice was on a roll now, playing to her audience. "You should see some of the cases I deal with at work," she continued. "Women like Evelyn, thinking they can have it all. A career and a family. Ha! I take their children away and give them to real families. Families with proper values." The guests nodded and murmured in agreement, shooting me mocking looks. I stood there, frozen, as Beatrice continued to spew her venom. I felt a deep sense of shame, not for myself, but for this woman who could be so cruel, so callous. "I'm not hungry," I said quietly, my voice barely above a whisper. "Enjoy your dinner." As I turned to leave, I heard Beatrice's laughter, followed by the laughter of her guests. The sound followed me out of the restaurant, echoing in my ears like a twisted symphony. I arrived home, my mind still reeling from the events at the restaurant. Without thinking, I started pulling clothes from the closet, stuffing them haphazardly into a suitcase. I couldn't stay here anymore, not after what had just happened. As I was frantically packing, my phone rang. It was Marco, the administrator at Bella Not. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Evelyn." Marco's voice was urgent. "You need to check the social media page for that cooking show that was filming at the restaurant today." Curiosity overcame my desire to flee. I opened my laptop and found the page. What I saw made my jaw drop. There, front and center, was a video of Beatrice. But it wasn't the polished, put together Beatrice she usually presented to the world. This was Beatrice in all her ugly glory, spewing venom about me, about how she abused her position to take children from their mothers. The video already had hundreds of thousands of views, and the comment section was on fire. She should be fired immediately. How can someone so cruel work with children? Poor Evelyn having to deal with such a monster of a mother-in-law. Before I knew what I was doing, I was back in my car, driving back to Bellinot. I burst through the doors, my heart pounding. Beatrice was still there, chatting animatedly with Chef Simone. When she saw me, her face twisted with annoyance. "Why are you back?" she hissed. "Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough for one night?" Without a word, I thrust my phone in front of her face, the damning video playing on the screen. Beatrice's face drained of color as she watched herself, her own words condemning her. What is this?" she sputtered. Then turning to Chef Simone, she shrieked, "You take this down immediately. I'll sue you for everything you've got." Chef Simone just laughed. "I could take it down, sure, but it's already been shared thousands of times. You're viral, Beatrice. Congratulations on your newfound fame." Beatrice's face contorted with rage. She began grabbing plates off the table, hurling them to the floor. "I'll ruin you," she screamed. "I'll ruin all of you." "Oh, I wouldn't do that if I were you," Chef Simone said calmly. "We're still live, you see. Your little tantrum is being broadcast to the whole country right now." Beatrice froze, her face a mask of horror. The other guests at the table sat in stunned silence, looking as if they wanted the ground to open up and swallow them. Marco appeared at my side, his face grim. "I'm going to have to ask you all to leave," he said firmly, "now, or I'll be forced to call the police." As Beatrice and her entourage disappeared into the night, Chef Simone turned to me, a sympathetic smile on her face. "Evelyn, isn't it?" she said. "Would you mind if we had a quick chat on camera? I think our viewers would love to hear your side of the story." I hesitated for a moment, then nodded. As the camera turned to me, I took a deep breath. This was my chance to tell my truth, to reclaim my narrative. The aftermath of Beatrice's public meltdown was swift and merciless. Within days, she was fired from her job in disgrace, her years of manipulating the system finally catching up with her. The influential position she'd wielded like a weapon was gone, along with the respect she'd commanded in society. As for me, I wasted no time. The very next day, I filed for divorce. Daniel came to me, his eyes red and pleading, begging for forgiveness. "Evelyn, please," he said, his voice breaking. "I made a terrible mistake. We can work this out, I promise. I'll stand up to Mom. I'll be better." I looked at him, feeling a mixture of pity and resolve. "It's too late, Daniel. You had years to stand up for me, to be a real partner, but you chose your mother over me. Every single time." The divorce was surprisingly quick. We didn't have much to divide, and Daniel, perhaps out of guilt, didn't contest anything. Just like that, 5 years of marriage were dissolved, reduced to nothing more than a signature on a piece of paper. But as one chapter of my life closed, another one opened up, in ways I never could have imagined. Chef Marco approached me a week after the incident, a broad smile on his face. "Evelyn," he said, "I've got some news for you. The owner was so impressed with how you handled everything. We want to make you the head chef of our flagship restaurant in the city center." It wasn't just the promotion. TV shows started calling, wanting me as a guest. At first, they just wanted me to cook, but soon they were asking me to speak about my experiences, about self-respect, and the importance of healthy family relationships. I started a YouTube channel sharing simple recipes and life advice. The comment section was filled with messages from people who had been through similar experiences, thanking me for giving them the courage to stand up for themselves. One day, my agent, yes, I had an agent now, called with some exciting news. Evelyn, I've got multiple offers for you to host your own TV show on cable. Are you interested? I couldn't believe it. Me, with my own TV show? It was beyond anything I'd ever dreamed of. As for my former family, well, I heard things through the grapevine. Beatrice's influence over her sons was waning. Clara, my former sister-in-law, who had always been Beatrice's golden child, now openly despised her mother-in-law. Funny how quickly things change when the true nature of a person is revealed. Some people asked if I felt sorry for them, if I regretted how things had turned out. The truth is, I didn't. They had made their choices, just as I had made mine. The difference was, I could look myself in the mirror each morning and be proud of the person I saw. I chose myself, and that was a victory worth savoring. The world changed overnight. One minute, I was just Evelyn, the hardworking chef trying to survive a toxic family dynamic. The next, I was Evelyn, the resilient chef, the inspirational woman, the face of a new generation. My face was plastered on magazine covers. My voice filled the airwaves. My TV show, Evelyn's Table, became an instant hit. The fame was intoxicating, a heady rush of validation I'd never experienced before. People actually listened to me. They valued my opinions. They sent me heartfelt messages telling me how my story had helped them break free from their own suffocating situations. But the spotlight cast long shadows. The more I rose, the more exposed I became. Every aspect of my life was scrutinized, dissected, and debated. My cooking was analyzed with microscopic precision. My past relationships were dredged up and twisted. My every word was taken out of context and weaponized. The internet, once a source of support and encouragement, became a breeding ground for trolls and haters. They called me a gold digger, accusing me of exploiting my past for fame and fortune. They questioned my culinary skills, claiming I was nothing more than a one-hit wonder. They even attacked my appearance, criticizing my weight, my clothes, my hair. I tried to ignore it, to focus on the positive feedback. But the negativity was relentless. It seeped into my consciousness, poisoning my thoughts and eroding my confidence. I started second-guessing everything I did, afraid of making a mistake, of giving the haters more ammunition. The pressure was immense. I felt like I was constantly walking a tightrope, balancing the expectations of my fans, my network, and myself. I was working harder than ever, but I was also more exhausted and stressed than ever. One evening, after a particularly grueling day of filming, I collapsed on my couch, feeling utterly depleted. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Chef Marco. "Evelyn, come to Bellanot, now." His message was cryptic, but I knew something was wrong. I dragged myself off the couch and headed to the restaurant. When I arrived at Bellanot, the atmosphere was somber. The usual lively chatter of the diners was muted, replaced by a hushed silence. I found Marco in the kitchen, his face etched with worry. "Evelyn," he said, his voice low, "we have a problem." He led me to the back of the kitchen, where a small group of employees were gathered around a computer screen. On the screen was a news article. The headline screamed, "Evelyn's Table Plagiarism Scandal. Rising star accused of stealing recipes." My heart sank. I read the article, my stomach churning with each word. The article claimed that several of my signature dishes were not original, but rather were copied from obscure cookbooks and websites. The accusations were accompanied by side-by-side comparisons of my recipes and the alleged sources. I was stunned. The accusations were completely false. I had never knowingly copied anyone's recipes. All of my dishes were born from my own creativity, my own experiences, my own passion. But how could I prove it? How could I fight back against such a damaging accusation? "Who would do this?" I asked, my voice trembling. Marco shook his head. "I don't know, Evelyn, but someone is trying to destroy you." The next few days were a nightmare. The plagiarism accusations dominated the news cycle. Evelyn's Table was temporarily pulled from the air. My sponsors dropped me like a hot potato. My reputation, which I had worked so hard to build, was crumbling before my eyes. I was devastated, but I refused to give up. I knew I was innocent, and I was determined to clear my name. I hired a lawyer and launched my own investigation, determined to uncover the truth. As I dug deeper, I discovered a disturbing pattern. The alleged sources of my recipes were all traced back to a single online account, a shadowy figure known only as Veritas. This Veritas had been systematically planting fake recipes and manipulating search engine results to make it appear as if I had stolen their ideas. But who was Veritas? And why were they targeting me? The search for Veritas became an obsession. I spent countless hours poring over online forums, chat logs, and social media profiles, trying to find a clue, a connection, anything that could lead me to their identity. The deeper I went, the more I realized that Veritas was not just a random internet troll. This was someone who knew me, someone who understood my cooking style, someone who had access to my inner circle. Suspicion began to gnaw at me. Could it be someone I knew? Someone I trusted? The thought was sickening. Then, one evening, as I was reviewing the evidence with my lawyer, a name popped up that made my blood run cold. Clara, my former sister-in-law, Beatrice's golden child. At first, I dismissed it as a coincidence. But as I looked closer, the evidence began to mount. The Veritas account had been created around the same time that Clara had started expressing jealousy about my success. The account had also been used to spread rumors about my personal life, rumors that only Clara would have known. I was stunned. How could Clara, someone I had once considered a friend, be capable of such malice? I decided to confront her. I tracked her down to a local art gallery where she was attending an opening. I walked up to her, my heart pounding in my chest. "Clara," I said, my voice barely above a whisper, "we need to talk." Clara's face paled when she saw me. She tried to brush me off, but I grabbed her arm. "Don't pretend you don't know what I'm talking about," I said, my voice hardening. "I know about Veritas. I know you're the one who's been trying to destroy me." Clara's eyes darted around nervously. "I don't know what you're talking about," she stammered. "Don't lie to me, Clara," I said, my voice rising. "I have proof. I know you created that account. I know you planted those fake recipes." Clara burst into tears. "Okay, fine," she sobbed. "It was me. But you don't understand. You stole everything from me. You stole my family, you stole my success, you stole my life." Clara's confession was a dam breaking. She poured out years of pent-up resentment and jealousy. She confessed that she had always felt overshadowed by me, that she resented my talent, my passion, my ability to connect with people. She revealed that Beatrice had fueled her jealousy, constantly comparing her to me, making her feel inadequate. She admitted that she had seen my success as a personal affront, a threat to her own self-worth. "I just wanted you to suffer," she said, her voice filled with bitterness. "I wanted you to feel the pain that I've been feeling for years." I was shocked by the depth of her hatred. I had known that Clara was jealous, but I had never imagined that it would drive her to such extremes. "Why, Clara?" I asked, my voice filled with sadness. "Why did you do this to me?" Clara just shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know," she said. I couldn't stand to see you happy." I left Clara at the art gallery, feeling a mixture of anger, sadness, and pity. I knew that what she had done was unforgivable, but I also couldn't help but feel sorry for her. She was a broken woman, consumed by her own insecurities and resentments. I turned the evidence I had gathered over to my lawyer and the authorities. Clara was eventually charged with multiple counts of defamation and cyberstalking. Her reputation was shattered, and her career was in ruins. With Clara's confession and subsequent arrest, the truth about the plagiarism accusations finally came to light. The news media, which had once been so quick to condemn me, now rushed to apologize. Evelyn's table was reinstated, and my sponsors came crawling back. I received an outpouring of support from my fans, who rallied behind me and defended me against the haters. But the experience had changed me. I was no longer the naive, trusting woman I had once been. I had learned that fame came at a price, and that there were people out there who would stop at nothing to tear you down. I decided to use my platform to speak out against cyberbullying and online harassment. I shared my story with the world, hoping to inspire others to stand up for themselves and to fight against the negativity and toxicity that pervades the internet. I also realized that I needed to reconnect with my roots, to rediscover the joy and passion that had fueled my love of cooking in the first place. I returned to Bellinot, spending time in the kitchen with Chef Marco, rediscovering the simple pleasures of creating delicious food. The Clara situation forced Daniel to finally take a stand against his mother. He couldn't deny the evidence, and he was horrified by Beatrice's role in fueling Clara's jealousy and resentment. He confronted Beatrice, accusing her of being a manipulative and controlling force in his life and in Clara's life. He told her that he was cutting off contact with her until she could apologize for her behavior and take responsibility for her actions. Beatrice, of course, refused. She insisted that she had done nothing wrong, that she had only been trying to protect her family. She accused Daniel of being ungrateful and disloyal. I knew that Daniel's decision to confront his mother would be painful and difficult, but I was proud of him for finally standing up for himself. One day, I received a letter from Beatrice. I hesitated before opening it, bracing myself for another barrage of insults and accusations. But the letter was different. It was a carefully worded apology, admitting that she had made mistakes and acknowledging the pain she had caused me and Daniel. She didn't take full responsibility for her actions, but it was a start. I didn't know if I could ever forgive Beatrice, but I decided to meet with her one last time. I wanted to hear her apology in person, to see if it was genuine. We met at a neutral location, a small park near her house. Beatrice looked frail and defeated, a far cry from the domineering woman I had once known. She apologized again, her voice trembling. She admitted that she had been wrong to compare me to Clara, that she had been wrong to criticize my cooking, that she had been wrong to interfere in my marriage. I listened in silence, trying to gauge her sincerity. I knew that she was capable of manipulation, but I also sensed a genuine remorse in her voice. "I can't undo the past, Evelyn," she said, her eyes filled with tears. "But I promise to do better. I promise to be a better mother, a better grandmother." I didn't know if I believed her, but I decided to give her the benefit of the doubt. I told her that I was willing to try to rebuild our relationship, but that it would take time and effort. Years have passed since then. I've continued to host Evelyn's Table, using my platform to promote healthy relationships and to celebrate the power of food to bring people together. My relationship with Daniel has remained cordial, but we have both moved on. He has found happiness with someone who appreciates him for who he is, and I am content with my own independence. Beatrice has made an effort to be a better mother and grandmother. She has apologized to Clara and to Daniel, and she has worked to rebuild their relationships. She is still a work in progress, but she is trying. As for me, I have finally found a sense of peace and fulfillment. I have learned that success is not about fame or fortune, but about staying true to yourself and using your gifts to make a positive impact on the world. I still cook at Bellinot from time to time, rediscovering the simple joy of creating delicious food. And every time I step into the kitchen, I remember the lessons I have learned, the challenges I have overcome, and the strength I have found within myself. My journey has been long and difficult, but it has also been incredibly rewarding. I have faced my demons, I have conquered my fears, and I have emerged stronger and more resilient than ever. And that, my friends, is a recipe for a life well lived. Life had settled into a comfortable rhythm. Evelyn's Table was thriving. I had a close circle of friends, and even a burgeoning romance with a charming Italian filmmaker named Alessandro. I'd truly found a balance. Then, a knock at the door shattered the tranquility. It was a young woman, maybe in her early 20s, her face pale and etched with anxiety. She clutched a worn-out teddy bear to her chest. "Evelyn?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Are you Evelyn?" I nodded, a knot of unease tightening in my stomach. "Yes." "Can I help you?" She hesitated, her eyes darting nervously around. "My name is Maya." My mother, she said I should find you." My heart skipped a beat. "Your mother?" Maya nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "Her name is Sarah. Sarah Miller." Sarah Miller. The name hit me like a physical blow. Sarah Miller was one of the women Beatrice had targeted during her time at Child Protective Services. Her story had been one of the most heartbreaking, a single mother unfairly accused of neglect. I remembered the case vividly, the injustice that had fueled my outrage and solidified my determination to speak out against Beatrice's abuse of power. I had even tried to reach out to Sarah at the time, but she had disappeared, vanished without a trace. "Maya," I said gently, "what happened to your mother?" Maya's tears spilled over. She's sick. Really sick. She doesn't have much time left. And she wanted me to meet you. She said you could help me." I led Maya inside, my mind racing. What could I possibly do to help? I hadn't seen Sarah in years. Maya sat down on my couch, still clutching the teddy bear. She told me her story, a story of hardship, resilience, and unwavering love. Sarah had struggled to make ends meet, working multiple jobs to provide for Maya. They had moved from city to city, always one step ahead of Beatrice's long reach. Despite the challenges, Sarah had been a devoted mother, always putting Maya's needs first. She had taught her the importance of kindness, compassion, and standing up for what's right. Now, Sarah was dying of cancer. She had kept her illness a secret, afraid of losing Maya to the system. But as her condition worsened, she knew she had to make a plan for her daughter's future. That's why she had sent Maya to me. "My mom," she said, "you were a good person," Maya said, her voice choked with emotion. "She said you fought for her. She said you would take care of me." The weight of Maya's words settled heavily on my shoulders. I had a responsibility to honor Sarah's dying wish, to protect Maya from the same injustices that her mother had faced. I visited Sarah in the hospital the next day. She was frail and weak, but her eyes lit up when she saw me. "Evelyn," she whispered, her voice raspy. "You came." I took her hand, my heart aching at the sight of her suffering. "I promised I would, Sarah." "How are you?" Sarah smiled weakly. I'm ready." I just wanted to make sure Maya would be okay. She told me about her fears for Maya's future, her concerns about the system, her anxieties about leaving her daughter alone. I listened patiently, offering words of comfort and reassurance. I promised Sarah that I would take care of Maya, that I would provide her with a safe and loving home, that I would help her pursue her dreams. "I'll be her family, Sarah," I vowed, my voice filled with emotion. "I won't let her down." Sarah squeezed my hand, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Evelyn," she whispered. "Thank you." Sarah passed away peacefully a few days later. I was heartbroken, but I was also determined to honor my promise to her. I took Maya in, welcoming her into my home and into my life. It wasn't easy. Maya was grieving, traumatized, and understandably wary of trusting anyone. But with patience, love, and unwavering support, I slowly began to earn her trust. I helped her navigate her grief, encouraged her to pursue her interests, and provided her with the stability and security she had always longed for. Over time, Maya and I formed a bond that transcended our circumstances. We became a family, bound not by blood, but by love, loyalty, and a shared understanding of the challenges we had faced. Maya blossomed under my care. She excelled in school, discovered a passion for photography, and developed a strong sense of self-worth. She became a confident, compassionate, and independent young woman. I was incredibly proud of her. She was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a shining example of how love and support can overcome even the most daunting obstacles. Of course, there were challenges. Maya struggled with the trauma of her past, the memories of her mother's struggles, the fear of being abandoned. But we worked through those challenges together, talking openly about her fears, seeking professional help when needed, and always reminding her that she was loved and valued. I learned so much from Maya. She taught me the importance of forgiveness, the power of hope, and the enduring strength of the mother-daughter bond. She also taught me that family is not just about blood. It's about the people who choose to love you, support you, and stand by you no matter what. One day, I received an unexpected phone call from Daniel. He sounded hesitant, apologetic. "Evelyn," he said, I need to talk to you about Mom." My heart sank. "What about her, Daniel?" He hesitated again. She wants to meet Maya. She says she wants to apologize for what she did to Sarah." I was stunned. Beatrice apologize? It seemed impossible. "Why now, Daniel?" I asked, my voice laced with suspicion. He sighed. "She's not doing well, Evelyn. Her health is failing. She says she wants to make amends before it's too late." I thought about Sarah, about the pain and suffering Beatrice had inflicted on her and Maya. I also thought about Maya, about her resilience, her compassion, her willingness to forgive. "I don't know, Daniel," I said. "I need to talk to Maya about this." I sat down with Maya and explained the situation. I told her about Beatrice's phone call, her desire to apologize. Maya listened in silence, her expression unreadable. When I finished, she took a deep breath. "I want to meet her," she said. I was surprised. "Are you sure, Maya? This is your decision. You don't have to do this." Maya nodded. "I know, but I want to. My mom always taught me to forgive." She said holding on to anger would only hurt me in the end. The meeting with Beatrice was tense and emotional. It took place in a small, private room at a local hospital. Beatrice was confined to a wheelchair, her face pale and gaunt. She looked much older than her years. When Maya entered the room, Beatrice's eyes filled with tears. "Maya," she whispered, her voice trembling. I am so sorry." She apologized for what she had done to Sarah, for the pain and suffering she had caused. She admitted that she had been wrong, that she had let her own biases and prejudices cloud her judgment. Maya listened patiently, her expression calm and composed. When Beatrice finished, she spoke softly. "I forgive you, Beatrice," she said. "My mom taught me to forgive, but forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. I will never forget what you did to her, but I choose to let go of the anger and the resentment." Beatrice broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. Maya reached out and took her hand. "It's okay," she said gently. "It's okay." I watched the scene unfold, my heart filled with a mixture of emotions. I was proud of Maya for her grace and compassion. I was also relieved that Beatrice had finally acknowledged the pain she had caused. The meeting didn't erase the past, but it did provide a sense of closure. It allowed Maya to let go of the anger and resentment that had been weighing her down. It also allowed Beatrice to find some peace in her final days. Maya continued to thrive. She graduated from college with honors, pursued her passion for photography, and became a successful and respected artist. She also became an advocate for children in the foster care system, using her own experiences to help others navigate the challenges of their lives. I watched her from afar, my heart swelling with pride. She was a remarkable young woman, a shining example of the power of resilience, compassion, and forgiveness. I continued to host Evelyn's Table, using my platform to promote healthy relationships and to celebrate the power of food to bring people together. I also found love again with Alessandro, my charming Italian filmmaker. We traveled the world together, exploring new cultures, tasting new foods, and sharing our stories with the world. Life wasn't perfect, of course. There were still challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt, but I had learned to embrace the imperfections, to appreciate the small joys, and to find strength in the connections I had forged. I had built a life filled with love, purpose, and meaning. I had transformed my pain into power, my struggles into strength. I had found my voice, and I was using it to make the world a better place. And that, my friends, is the most satisfying recipe of all. Years later, after Alessandro and I had settled into a comfortable life together, with a small villa overlooking the Tuscan countryside, I received a letter. It was old, the paper yellowed and brittle, the handwriting faded and elegant. It was addressed to me in Sarah Miller's familiar script. My breath caught in my throat. It had been years since Sarah passed, and I hadn't expected to ever hear from her again. I carefully opened the envelope, my hands trembling slightly. The letter began with a simple greeting, a warm and heartfelt expression of gratitude for everything I had done for her and Maya. Sarah wrote about her hopes for Maya's future, her dreams for a world where children like her wouldn't have to suffer the injustices she had faced. Then, the letter took a surprising turn. Sarah revealed a secret, a truth she had kept hidden for years, afraid of the consequences. She wrote that before she went into hiding, she had gathered evidence of Beatrice's corruption, meticulously documenting the cases where Beatrice had abused her power and manipulated the system. This evidence, Sarah wrote, was hidden away, safe and secure, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. She entrusted me with the location of this evidence, urging me to use it to ensure that no one else would ever suffer at the hands of someone like Beatrice. My mind raced. This was huge. This was the final piece of the puzzle, the ultimate vindication for Sarah and all the other victims of Beatrice's abuse. I immediately contacted my lawyer, sharing the contents of Sarah's letter. Together, we made arrangements to retrieve the evidence, a collection of files, documents, and recordings hidden in a safety deposit box in a small town several states away. The evidence was damning. It confirmed everything Sarah had alleged, providing irrefutable proof of Beatrice's corruption, her manipulation of the system, and her deliberate targeting of vulnerable families. I knew what I had to do. I couldn't let this evidence remain hidden. I had a responsibility to Sarah, to Maya, and to all the other victims of Beatrice's abuse. I contacted the authorities, providing them with the evidence and urging them to reopen the investigation into Beatrice's conduct. The response was swift and decisive. A new investigation was launched, and Beatrice was finally held accountable for her actions. She was stripped of her remaining credentials and faced a barrage of lawsuits from the families she had wronged. Her legacy, once built on power and control, was now forever tarnished by the truth. The revelations about Beatrice's past had a profound impact on the child welfare system. New safeguards were put in place to prevent future abuses of power, and greater emphasis was placed on protecting the rights of vulnerable families. Maya became a leading voice in the movement for reform, using her own experiences to advocate for change. She established a foundation to provide support and resources to families in need, helping them navigate the system and fight for their rights. Her work was inspiring, a testament to the power of resilience and the transformative potential of forgiveness. As for me, I continued to use my platform to raise awareness about the issues facing vulnerable children and families. I also made a conscious effort to live a life of authenticity and purpose, to stay true to my values, and to use my gifts to make a positive impact on the world. Years passed. Alessandro and I were married in a small, intimate ceremony in our Tuscan villa, surrounded by our closest friends and family. Maya served as my maid of honor, her smile radiating joy and love. We adopted a child of our own, a young boy named Luca, who had spent years in foster care. We welcomed him into our home with open arms, showering him with love and affection. Becoming a mother was the most transformative experience of my life. It gave me a new perspective on the world, a deeper understanding of the challenges facing families, and a renewed commitment to making a difference. Maya and Luca formed a close bond, becoming siblings in every sense of the word. They shared a love for art, for adventure, and for making the world a better place. One day, Maya came to me with a proposition. She wanted to establish a culinary arts program for underprivileged youth, providing them with the skills and training they needed to pursue careers in the food industry. She asked me to partner with her on the project, to lend my expertise and my name to the cause. I was deeply honored. It was the perfect way to bring my life full circle, to combine my passion for cooking with my commitment to social justice. Together, we launched Evelyn's Table, a culinary arts initiative, a program that provided hands-on training, mentorship, and job placement assistance to young people from disadvantaged backgrounds. The program was a resounding success. Graduates went on to work in some of the finest restaurants in the world, using their skills to build successful careers and transform their lives. As I looked back on my life, I realized that it had been a journey of unexpected twists and turns, of heart-wrenching challenges and extraordinary triumphs. I had faced betrayal, injustice, and loss, but I had also experienced love, forgiveness, and profound personal growth. I had learned that life is not always fair, but it is always worth living. I had learned that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope. And I had learned that the most important thing is to stay true to yourself, to follow your heart, and to use your gifts to make the world a better place. My legacy was not about fame or fortune. It was about the connections I had made, the lives I had touched, and the difference I had made in the world. It was a legacy of love, resilience, and unwavering commitment to justice. And it was a legacy that would endure long after I was gone. Years later, sitting on the sun-drenched terrace of our Tuscan villa, sipping a glass of homemade limoncello, I watched Maya and Luca laughing together, their faces filled with joy. Alessandro sat beside me, his hand resting gently on mine. I felt a deep sense of contentment, a profound gratitude for all that I had. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in a blaze of vibrant colors. I closed my eyes, savoring the moment, breathing in the scent of lavender and rosemary. Life had been a challenging recipe, a complex blend of sweet and savory, bitter and sour. But with love, resilience, and a dash of forgiveness, I had created a masterpiece. And as the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, I knew that my story, like every great recipe, was never truly finished. There were always new ingredients to discover, new flavors to explore, and new ways to share the love and joy that filled my heart. The story, like life, goes on,